those on Amazon, or there was a time when you could get those on Amazon. I assume they've been mass produced at this point. So, Andrew, you are running for office of mayor in what is very likely the most important city on earth. I love the idea of you being mayor of New York. Let me just get my biases on the table. And it's amazing to consider New York being a kind of laboratory to experiment in how we reboot society. It seems like there's so many things are up for review in just how we function collectively. And the idea that someone with your creative and modern take on things could be steering a fairly large ship of New York City is just it's amazing to consider. So I'm wishing you the best of luck with it.
Well, thank you, Stan. This is like a continuation of that, frankly, you helped me launch back in 2018 when I was an unlikely presidential candidate, and we made a really powerful case around trying to advance and humanize the economy that I dare say ended up becoming mainstream popular wisdom, where, as we're having this conversation, the last I checked, 85% of Americans are for cash relief during the pandemic, and a majority are for cash relief in perpetuity, otherwise known as basic income. And I'm really eager to take principles that I fought for at a national level and apply them in New York City around fact-based governance and trying to get bureaucracies to work in a more modern and technologically proficient fashion. I can't wait to roll up my sleeves, get some incredible people on board, and try to steer New York City in a positive direction. And this race is also different from the presidential race in that it's very, I'm the front runner.
That's amazing.
So there's an enormous opportunity here that I think people take advantage of.
So what's New York like now? We're still in the midst of this pandemic. I know we're probably doing a better job in California in rolling out the vaccine, but we're still under the shadow of this thing. What's happening?
New York City is back to normal. So it's been devastated by the coronavirus on multiple levels. And most of your listeners know me as a numbers guy. Some of the numbers that reflect how bad it's been in New York City. Over 27,000 deaths in the last and a lot of those things aren't happening right now. So the adjustments have been really painful for many, many organizations and individuals and families. I know it's not as California as well, but I do think New York City has special dependence on people feeling like they can come together in large numbers.
Yeah, it seems to me that there's really a perfect storm there with respect to the specific variables of the density and dependence on tourism and retail and office space going unoccupied. And just the weather, right? I mean, there are many places in the country where restaurants can start serving outdoors before they open indoors. And I know you guys tried that, but in the dead of winter, it doesn't work very well. But let's go through these topics somewhat systematically. So I'd like to get your take on each. The retail and office space problem, I mean, 82% unoccupied. One thing that worries me is that there's the prospect that our habits have changed enough under COVID, with remote work in particular, that it's conceivable that to be in restaurants and bars, and good luck getting a table in a restaurant in New York once we fully recover here. And I guess the same could be true of certain approaches to office space and retail. I don't know. Again, so much shopping has moved online, but you got to think a reinvention of retail is also possible because most of us are getting sick of living like somebody out of a Dostoevsky novel and not leaving our houses. So once we fully get out from under the shadow of COVID, how do you picture New York rebooting?
And street level retail in New York is often geared towards some of the 60 million tourists. And I think that those experiences will still be very much desired when, if you visit New York City, you want a memory. You want something that commemorates and documents your visit. And people will want that experience in some way. It could be that the makeup of the retail changes. There have been a lot of very significant brands that invested in Times Square restaurants and whatnot, in part because they thought that it would be a worthwhile branding expenditure. And I think that's unique to New York City because the thought is that you can reach people from all over the country, all over the world if you are investing in like a Times Square restaurant or something along those lines. So I do think that retail for tourists will be a constant. There are going to be a lot of storefronts that need to get new tenants. I mean, right now, if you walk New York City streets, there are a lot of empty storefronts. And it's unclear whether they're going to end up reopening on their own naturally. There have been some suggestions around having vacancy taxes for landlords to try and give them some sort of spur to make sure that there's a tenant trying to fill that storefront because it's going to be an issue for them.
Well, let's talk about crime and homelessness because these are obviously not just problems for New York. Cities all over the country are seeing a spike in both. Stories out of San Francisco are testifying to something like a free fall condition there with respect to quality of life. Again, with respect to both variables, crime and homelessness. Let's take homelessness first. Just what is the reality of homelessness now in New York, and what would be a response to it that could fundamentally change the picture?
Well, the first thing you want to do is try and keep the problem getting worse because there are many New Yorkers who are positioned to potentially get evicted if the moratorium is extended or if you don't have legal representation. It turns out if you have legal representation, you have to do a standing order and go away. So one thing the city should be doing is making sure that every tenant who wants a lawyer can have one. We should be trying to keep people in their homes. The city has had a program for around emergency assistance that makes perfect sense where you spend a little bit of money trying to keep people in their home. It ends up saving the city a lot of money on homelessness services. And the homelessness problem is growing in New York City. Order of magnitude, you have about 57,000 people in shelters right now in New York. And in some cases, New York is spending tens of thousands of dollars a head per year on providing shelter to folks because of the overburdened shelter system. In some cases, even buying hotel rooms because that was the only shelter that could be found. So this is a situation where you want to try and keep the problem getting worse, number one. And then number two, we need to develop more sustainable affordable housing, which has been a constant problem in New York City because no one actually has wanted affordable housing to be developed in their neighborhood when the proposal comes up. They're all for it in the political abstract, but then when it was like, hey, how about your district? Then people don't like it. So one big opportunity here, there are a few things one can do. One is we should be expanding something called safety beds, which are beds that are provided by nonprofits and some point would take the wheel just to walk away.
Interesting. How do you stop a hotel like that converted to affordable housing from becoming a kind of circus of dysfunction of the sort that I imagine explains why homeless people often don't want to go to shelters because they're either perceived to be unsafe or just many of the reasons why people are homeless are now concentrated in a building, right? Mental illness and substance abuse being the primary ones. I mean, obviously people become homeless for other reasons of the sheer bad luck of economic emergency or illness, plus eviction. But there's so many people who are on the street or chronically on the street due to substance abuse or mental illness. How could we make these places where people can get the kinds of services they need and have the result be something like a remedy for the problem of homelessness?
Well, number one would be to have a mixture of types of residents and families so that you could have people who just would be really thrilled about an opportunity to live in a repurposed hotel alongside maybe some folks who are struggling. So you wind up without a very high density of folks who might be struggling with substance abuse or other issues. There's also something called supportive housing where you actually have some of those services built in. And so you could have social workers or addiction counselors actually even staffing some of these centers so that there are some countermeasures in place. Now, the goal would not, frankly, be to turn these hotels into shelters in a way that would be a concentration of some of the issues that shelters right now face. It would be so that there's a whole mix of families. And people have found that actually to be a way for folks who are struggling to have a social context and be in a better position to improve.
Right. So what about crime in the city? What's happening there? There's a spike in many cities of 50% or so in the last 10 months.
It's a bit higher here, unfortunately. And also discouraging the rates of resolution, which is that the perpetrator gets caught, kind of going down. That to me is a very nasty combination. You want the rates of resolution to be going up or staying constant or space. So we need to invest resources in trying to stem the rise and also catch perpetrators. One of the things that I always have this working theory on is that if there are, let's say, 10 robberies, that might not be 10 robbers, that could be like 2 robbers, who are going around, robbing multiple people. So when I see these rises and the fact that many of the crimes haven't been resolved, I think to myself, well, there are some very bad actors who are in position to strike again. And that to me has to be really focused resources, is that a relatively small number of people being apprehended could end up being a significant factor in some of these. I'm going to tell a dumb story, but this is an experience I had. I ride my bike around New York City a lot. Not a motorbike.
You're campaigning on a someone saw the blinker and decided to take it off my bike. And that was the kind of thing that I don't think necessarily would happen in another time in the York system. I think right now is like a time when people are feeling kind of desperate. And so if something is done as like a blinker on a bike, they might take it down or they might hold it. Obviously, the topic of law and order brings us up against issues of social justice here that are both understandable and I also think are deeply misconstrued by many people on both the right and the left. But I do think certainly not their perception. You know, arguably they're over-policed with respect to petty crime and under-policed with respect to serious crime. And in the starkest case, you have the problem of murderers just going free, you know, crimes being unsolved, the worst kinds of crimes being unsolved disproportionately in certain neighborhoods. And yet any seemingly rational approach to fighting this sort of crime, you know, directing cops preferentially into places where more of the crime happens, can be spun as racist or, you know, otherwise optically horrific sort of anytime you want, you know, and people are so sensitive to this that I think we're right to fear that in many cities, I don't know if New York is an example, but in many cities there's something like a Ferguson effect that has happened here, which is, you know, where cops kind of stop policing in areas where the inconvenient YouTube video leads to the reputational destruction of the cops involved or the police force that's supposed to be solving crime in these neighborhoods. So it's a hard problem to solve, and you know, just from a PR point of view, whatever is rational to do in terms of fighting crime and improving people's lives. As you know, Michael Bloomberg had his own adventures with stop and frisk. How do you view solving this problem or ramming through it or ignoring it? I mean, what is the approach to fighting a resurgence in crime in New York in a way that actually fights it as efficiently and as sanely as possible?
The NYPD has had a number of real issues that predated there was a gentleman named Eric Garner who was publicly choked out and lost his life. And I don't know if you remember, this was a number of years ago, but there were NBA players playing like I Can't Breathe a number of years ago for Eric Garner. That was New York. Like, the NYPD spends hundreds of millions of dollars a year settling civil lawsuits against it, which I take as a very, very terrible data point on so many levels. One, because if you can imagine the city of New York spending hundreds of millions on it, the last thing you want to spend it is on settling lawsuits against cops. That's something wrong. The second thing is that if you're losing a couple $100 million worth of lawsuits a year, that probably means that the level of harm might be a multiple of that, because a lot of the time I'm sure no one's actually getting sued for something that they're doing wrong. So there is a genuine cultural problem where the NYPD is concerned that I think extends to some of not only the officers, but I talked to officers on the street. Some of them, frankly, seem like exactly the kind of people that you want policing in a community. When I was in the Bronx, there was a team who was like a Latino woman in a black male cop patrolling like that. You know, like these are people actually represent this community. There has to be an ability to focus on lowering rates of violence